Hello, and can you believe it? We're on part 19. Unbelievable, isn't it? So, we're cracking on with the kitchen unit, and I want to contrast this unit with the other one. I want it to be slightly different, but carrying on the blue theme. So, I've mixed up my paint and I'm going to speed it up because it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? It's a bit boring. So I'm using my heat gun because I am really impatient and I can't be bothered waiting. I do eventually let the paint dry fully, but in between coats, slam it on. So I've lined the walls and yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's ready for paper or whatever I decide to do. And I glue the kitchen to the wall and I weight it up with my gold. I wish it was real, but it's not. I do need to make a cover for the light switch housing. Well, housing for the light switch, should I say, like I did on that one. So that will be incorporated with the decor. So it's going to plan, which I'm pleased about. The unit obviously is nearly done. It just needs varnishing now because I'm voicing this after the video. So yeah, so let's make a fireplace. So for this, I am going for a Art Deco styly kind of styly, Amy. Dead straight. Art Deco style fireplace. So you know the ones, the like beigey coloured tiles with a bit of pattern on. So I found a great reference picture that I'm going to use as my inspiration. So I'm using my favourite card and I'm just cutting out the insert of the fireplace. So it's where you've got directly the fire, it's the first surround before the big surround. And I'm not sure what that's called. I'm not sure what that's called because it's not actually part of the fire on this. It's kind of like part of the fireplace. So anyway, you'll see what I mean. So I'm just cutting it out and I've edited this as much as I can. This video originally was, after first edit, it was 39 minutes. And I thought, well, I've got to get rid of some of that. He wants to sit around for 39 minutes. So anyway, I've cut it down. If you want to see long form, let me know. Not a problem. So the inside of the fireplace is starting to take shape and I'm using my gel glue to stick that on, and it's going to be like one slightly bigger than the other one, and I'm just going to make a strip for a bit of interest there along the top, keeping in mind the Art Deco-y kind of style. And yeah, it does work out all right. You'll see in a minute. I'm pleased with it. So this is the process. We are still going. You must bear with me. I had absolutely no sleep last night. Just could not settle. It was one of those things. And 5 o'clock this morning, I give up and I stayed up. So, and I've got so much work to do as well. So I'm going to have to just crack on and bump up the caffeine. So I'm using my favourite foam and I'm making the fire surround for this. And I do realise when I've done one of these, like this one, I'm thinking it's not going to be thick enough. So I end up making two, just to stick them together and get the bulk, because that first surround needs to sink in and this one needs to stand out. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm just marking out where the first surround is going to go, the inner surround. Is that right? I'm not sure what it's called. And I got off all the bits from the foam. And this is it. I'm doubling up. And yeah, I realise later on that I do need to change my blade in my knife or get a new knife because that was just tearing at everything, but I got around it. So I'm going to glue these together and wait till they dry. And that's just a quick idea of how it's going to look before I do the tiling on it. So yeah, I'm happy with the shape and yeah, it's good. It's good. So I am making a ceiling now for the living area and I'm using cereal box card. I won't name the brand for fear of one, advertising, or two, getting done. So I'm not doing it. So mark out the lights by simply holding it against the ceiling and feeling where the lights are and marking it with a pencil, cutting them out. So I'm checking the fit And here I'm getting rid of the fold in the box because the size that I needed did not avoid any fold. So if sometimes you can get rid of most of it just by pressing down on it. I just tend to rub something like plastic against it and it does get rid of the most of it. I'm going to make edging around like coving almost. It's not going to hit the wall, it's just going to be against the ceiling for this. So I'm measuring out strips of card that I can put onto the card, if you get me. And I'm just here working out the angles, etc. And I figured that if I put that on top of that and mark it off and make sure I cut that perfectly in the square, I get a good angle. And it's only took me years to figure that out because I'm rubbish at angles. But then again, I'm rubbish at maths, so that's you take the rough with the smooth. So I'm scoring the back of the card to help the glue sink in. Now this card's not as shiny as some. I think they've cut down on some of the shine on the cardboard now. I've had some cereal boxes where it's just almost plastic, and if you don't score it, you glued it just won't stick. The glue kind of is repelled, but this isn't too bad. But I still score it anyway out of habit. Stick that on, and then I've got all my edges, and then I decide I want thinner strips for the inside of that to create another rectangle within the rectangle. And I do realise that to try and keep it in any sort of order, I'm going to have to mark out the angles. So here I am thinking, all right, hang on, that angle continues there, that one continues there. So I thought, right, well, I'll mark them out and that'll give me a guide as to where I can put the thinner strips. And it did work for the most part. I mean, I still got it a bit wonky because that's me, but it did work for the most part. So here I am doing it. I did have to replace one. I tore it off and then put another one down because I did get it wrong. As I turned it round to look at it, it was really wonky. So that was the only cock up really on that. So yeah, it was all right. Light placement is not great, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think in the grand scheme of things. It's still going to look really good when it's done, I think. So here we go. My favourite bit with embossing with the wood glue. And the easiest thing is using a toothpick. I mean, it's fiddly. It's not easy, should I say. It's fiddly. But I have tried one of those bottles with a very short nib, a very sharp, thin nib on it. And it's still too heavy for the flow of the glue. It's still too wide. And anything smaller than that, you would never get it out the tube. So I'm sticking with my toothpick for now until I find something else that works. The idea with this is just to give me an embossed kind of relief on it, really. So when I paint on it, it's going to look like it's almost moulded. And it does work. It does work. I've used it several times now in other projects and this one. And yeah, it's just an easy way. There are other ways that I've done it. I've used ribbon, lace, what else? Rope kind of things, like twine. You can use all sorts, but I found that this is one of the easiest for this style that I'm going for. So yeah, I'm going to carry on with that. I go all the way around and I will speed it up more because it takes quite a while. And you can imagine how long it takes when you're doing it at normal speed. It was a bit, but I do enjoy it at the same time. Yeah, weird. Sorry about the shade there. Since I've moved into this other room, because I was in the bigger spare bedroom. Now I had to move to the smaller spare bedroom, and I've still not quite figured out the wall lights yet. They've not been moved yet. And I've tried another light too, because what you can see here is the mount for the camera. So it's my own fault. I should have moved it over. So my apologies, but I think you can kind of see what's going on there, I hope. And the other side, and it more or less comes together at the end. And there it is. Almost one more side to go. Here's me jumping ahead of myself. And then the last side, and I was quite relieved to get to this point, but it will look good when it's painted, you'll see in a minute. So with the leftover glue, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to use it as a bit of texture for the ceiling, not quite an artexy kind of thing, just a bit of something, so you can see some sort of texture when I've painted it. And that's the whole thing done, yay! So I need to let that dry, so off camera it does, and as if by magic, it is dry. In fact, this is the next day. So I'm going to paint it in a creamy beige. And I was thinking about, do I make it look really old and cracked and all this lot? But I thought no, because I want this room to look all right. Yeah, it's a bit old, but it's not. Margaret's had a go at making it look a lot better than it was. It's not the worst room. It's not like the one next to the pharmacy that's just had everything dumped in it and not been decorated and all that. She's made a bit of an effort in this one. So, yeah, I'm going to let her have a nice ceiling. So, it takes a few coats. I make this a paler coat, then I do make a slightly darker one here for the top coat. And I could have PVA'd it first, but on this type of card, it doesn't really make much difference, and the paint doesn't settle very well. If I was using my normal card, I would have definitely used PVA first. Anyway, I get rid of the bits of hanging off bits of foam on my fireplace, and here is my favourite, I think they call it sparkle in America. It's a joint compound, they would call it here, and it's just like a very fine fill plaster that you use for plasterboard joints. I love it. I use it all the time. I use it in my brickwork. You name it, I use it. I love it. It's so easy to work with. When you find that one thing that you really enjoy working with, this is it. So I fill all the gaps on the fireplace. Once that is dry, I then sand it down, which you will see me do shortly. Go right the way around, just filling in any gaps. So it looks pretty smooth when it's done. Worth doing because I've used a double layer of foam. I don't want to see any gaps in between that. So I'm going to sand this down, and I do kind of round off the edges as well to make them a bit more cornered, because the reference photo I worked from had like rounded edges for the tiles. So I thought, right, I've got to kind of recreate that a bit. So that sanded off really well. I wipe off all the dust, and yeah, I'm pleased with it. I give the inside one a bit of a sand as well, just to get any burrs off. I'm looking at that, I'm getting excited now, thinking, yeah, this is coming on. So I want to create a bit of Art Deco detail in the tiles. So these will be painted a different colour in a bit, which you will see. And I am using my pencil just to score in the tile lines into the foam. Now, I love this bit. What I love the most is when I'm doing a big sheet of it for brickwork. Oh, it's my favourite. It's just my favourite. You can get lost for hours doing that. It's really relaxing. What is your favourite thing to do in your craft? I would love to know. Here I am just making sure that the tile lines go all the way around the fire and kind of, continue around, because you are going to see mainly the right hand side as we're looking at that, the right hand side of it, because it's going against the right wall of the room in the living room area. So, because you're going to see the side on, you want the tiles to continue round to give that bit of realism. So I am just carrying on with that on the inside and the outside, and I use some acetate. I dig out my acetate, and that's going to be the cover in front of the fire. So when the lights come through it, it's going to look all glowy and lovely. So here I am just marking out the last of the detail in the tiles. It's just a little bit of pattern on the top. Now, this is like a creamy beige that I've gone for. It's pretty much the same as in my reference picture, and quite a popular colour for fireplaces back then. Some had slight, like a yellow tinge to them. This one was more beigey. and it had dark spackles on it, like dark, it's like spackles, and the insert was brown with light spackles. So I'm going to show you this in a minute. And the final coat's going on there on the fire. I do use my heat gun in between, but being careful because it is foam. So I'm using my sponge, and I'm just going to dot on the pale spackles on the darks around. And I love this bit of sponge. It's the best sponge I found to sponge on. I have used all kinds of sponge, and fine, you do want different, like this sponge is fish pond filter sponge. It goes inside the filter. So I managed to bag some of that from a new filter that it didn't need, so from my husband, so I use it for this. Other sponges that are finer are great for things like rust and things like that, but for this was perfect. This was perfect. A normal sponge just would have put too much on. Even blotting half of it off, it would still have been too much. This is perfect. It created the right texture. I was really pleased with it. Once this is all painted and dried, I am going to varnish it. I'm going to use a matte varnish because these weren't high shine. They had a shine, but not a high shine. So I'm going to go for matte varnish on this one. But yeah, it's coming along and I'm so pleased with it. Look at that, eh? Yeah, pleased with it. So that is it for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you've enjoyed the video, please like and comment, and I will see you next time for part, I think we're on 20 next, aren't we? See you again. Bye.